Hi, welcome to Block 3, Fractions and Percentages of Amounts, Lesson 4. I'll share my screen. Okay, so in your previous lesson, you learned how to find percentages of amounts using mental methods. So you learned that to find 10%, you divide that amount by 10. To find 50%, you divide that amount by 2. To find 25%, you divide that amount by um, 5. And to find 25%, you divide the amount by 4. Okay. So today you're going to find a percentage of a given amount using a calculator. I would like to ask you to support our mission of educating a global population of children who may not have access to high quality education in maths. So like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share click on the notification bell so that when new videos are released, you will be notified. Thank you. Before we start, I would like you to do these retrieval practice questions in 3 minutes. Assuming you've done that, here are the answers. Let's discuss it. So for the first one, 10% of 430 is simply dividing 430 by 10. The next one, 30%, means you could find 430, 10% of 430 and then multiply by 3. All right, that is one way to do it. Another way to do it is you could find 1%, so you divide 430 by 100 and then multiply by 30. This one, you can see 1% is 4.3. So to find 1%, you could divide 430 by 100. So to find 1% of any amount, you divide by 100. And then that's the answer. But another way to do it is you could find 10%, which is 43, and then divide 10% by 10 again. So you divide by 10, divide by 10, that is 1%. And then to find 3%, you can multiply 1% by 3. Okay, let's do some new learning. If you're asked to find 31% of 430, which you can see we have some facts here that we can use. So we already know that 10% is 43. We also know that 30% is 12.129. So 30%, remember, is 3 lots of 10%. So we can simply multiply 43 by 3. That gives us 129. We also know that 1% is 4.3. So we can use these facts to find 31%. And the way to do that is to add the constituent amounts that would make 31%. And that should give you your answer. So 30% of 430 plus 1% of 430 will give you 31%. Okay? And that's 129 plus 4.3, and that gives you 133.3. Okay? 133.3. Okay, let's now get into the realm of using calculator. So if you were asked to check these calculations, so use your calculator to perform the following calculations, and I just want you to check which of these calculations are equivalent to 31% of 430. Okay, now take note, before you start, I want to mention this one is exactly like you see there. So remember to use your percentage button after you press the number, after you input the number 31. This one, you're going to need the fraction button in your calculator. Okay, so I would now like you to have a think and see which of these calculations are equivalent to 31% of 430. All right, I'm sure you've noticed a few things. So these are the calculations that all are equivalent to 31% of 430. The only one that is not equivalent to that is this one. So let's just discuss them briefly. So this one, by doing 430 divided by 100, you are actually finding 1%. Okay, remember from our previous examples. So once you found 1%, by multiplying it by 31, you have just made 31%. This one, 31% is exactly what it is. So it's 31%. You impute the percent operation in your calculator, and that should give you your answer. This one, 31 divided by 100 is the same thing as saying 31%. Remember, your percentage sign means out of 100. So this is 31 hundredths, and it's the same thing as this one, these ones here, because 31 divided by 100, which is 31 hundredths, is the same thing as 0.31, and it is the same thing as 31 out of 100. So remember, we can express division as a fraction and a fraction as a division. All right, it's now time for you to pause the video and answer questions 1 to 5 to practice what you've learned. All right, assuming you've paused the video and you've answered questions 1 and 2, here are the answers. So here you ask, complete the calculations, show your working. You're simply using your calculator. So you impute your 36%, the 36, you press your percentage button, you press the multiplication sign, and then 240. That should give you your answer there. And it's the same for this one. Here you're asked to tick the calculation that cannot be used to find 83% of 542. So by now, you should know how this works. So if we really want to write things out, so 83% of 542, remember 83% is 83 out of 100, times of can be written in maths as times 542. So you can see why these calculations all represent, okay, all represent this except this, okay? So you can see this one. Let's talk about this one. This one is a bit like saying, imagine these 83 and 542 swap places, which is possible. It can be done, all right? Because we can rewrite this as 83 times 542 divided by 100. So it can be either this divided by that or this divided by that. And then you can see this one. You can see that one represents that. And then this is 0.83. Okay, so the odd one out is this. So explain your answer. Percentage means per 100 or out of 100. So you would need to divide by 100 with by 100, not multiply. Okay, so you see that one is wrong. Okay, pause the video and answer questions 3 and 4 in 2 minutes. All right, assuming you've paused the video and you've answered questions 3 and 4, here are the answers. So here, something you really want to know is just one clever percentage trick you should be aware of. 84% of 50 is the same thing as 50% of 84. It's a bit like saying, let's just use a different number to demonstrate this. It's a percentage fact you need to know. So for example, if I say 34% of 100, that is the same thing as 100% of 34. So it's really important you know this, okay? And it's also something about commutative. It's commutative because of can be represented as multiplication. And you can see that if we swap, move around the inputs for the calculation, it does not change the answer. So they are both equal to the same answer, 42. Okay. Next, you ask, in 2011, the population of Leeds was 474,632. The population of Leeds has now increased. A web page states the population of Leeds has increased by 17%. Is it possible for the population to have increased by exactly 17%? Explain your answer. So here is the answer, no. Why? 17% of this is this amount, and you can see that you can't have, a fraction of a person. So when you do this calculation, you will see that your answer is not an integer. So you cannot, in the context of what we're discussing, we cannot have a fraction or decimal of a person. Pause the video and answer question 5 in 1 minute. All right, assuming you've paused the video and you've answered question 5, here are the answers. So here, you're asked to give your answer in centimeters. So what do you think you're going to do first? Of course, you're going to have to convert that to centimeters. So it's like saying, remember, 1 meter is equal to 100 centimeter. So 2 meters will have to be 200 centimeters. So actually, what you're being asked to do here is to work out 37% of 200 centimeter because your answer needs to be in centimeter. So again, you can just use your calculator to do this, and that should give you your answer. All right, let's move on to a different segment of our lesson, a new learning. So Miss Hussein wants to put £380 into a bank account. She looks at interest rates at 2 banks. Which bank would give the most interest over 2 years? So when you have questions like this, the first thing you do is to work each of them out. Okay, so for this one, we know that to find percent, we need to read the question at each stage. So first year, she's going to get 0.5% of the original amount deposited. So the original amount, to work that out, you need to do 0.5% of 380, which is £1.90. £1.90. For second year, we were told that we're going to have to work out 4.2% of the amount after year 1, after 1 year. So remember, because it's interest, the interest is going to be added to the original amount. So now for year 2, it has to be £380 plus £1.90. So that's why we have to do this calculation, of course, using our calculator. So 4.2%, you press your 4.2, your percent sign, times, then 381, and then 90 pence. And that gives you £16, 4 pence. So take note, when you're working with money, if you have decimal places like this, you need to round to 2 decimal places. Okay? So our money system, or most money systems, or almost all of them, I think, usually use 2 decimal places. Okay, let's now check the interest she earned. Okay, so the total interest will be that one, because that's what we've been asked to work out, plus the interest she earned in year 2. All right. Now, let's work out for Tebnorth Bank. So first year, we'll have to do 1.8% of £380. Second year, we'll have to add that amount to the original amount. So that will be 386.84, which will give us £386.84, which will give us £12.38. Now, what's the total interest? The total interest will have to be, remember, you can see, before we do that, remember, we have decimal places, quite a number of them, but we need to round to 2 decimal places, for money. And that should give you 12.38. So the total interest she earned will be £6.84 plus £12.38. So to answer the question, remember we were asked which bank would give the most interest over 2 years. You can see that amount is higher, so it's Tebnorth Bank. Okay, you've now learned how to apply your knowledge of doing calculating percentage of amounts to solve real world problems and word problems. So it's now time for you to practice. So pause the video and answer questions 6 and 7 in 3 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video and you've answered questions 6 and 7, here are the answers. So here you were asked, Donnie is buying a bike. She finds the same bike in 2 different shops. And here are the price tags. The rate of VAT is 20%. In which shop would it be cheaper to buy the bike? So here, you're going to have to find... so this price does not include VAT for this price ticket. And then here, price includes VAT. So here, the price, VAT has already been included here. So to be able to do that quickly, you do 20% of £106 and then you add that amount to 106. So when you do that, you would see that it's actually the shop that would be cheaper to buy the bike. So remember what you do for this one. So I'll just write quickly. So you do 20%, yeah, of 106 pounds. And then whatever you get, you add it to 106. So whatever you get, 20%. So you can do that really quickly. You don't even need a calculator. 10% is to divide by 10. So 106 divided by 10 is 10.6. Double that, that will be, so 10.6, double that, that will be 21.2. So 21, okay, 0.2. So this will give you 2, 7, 2, and 1. So 127. So you can see that it is cheaper to buy in Fast Bikes. This one is a bit more expensive. So here, Rosie and Jack are calculating 99% of 250 pounds. Here, Jack says you need to use a calculator for this as they are large numbers. Really? Well, let's see. Next one. Rosie says, I think it's possible to use a mental method for this. I would agree with Rosie because very quickly we can find 1%, okay, which is to divide by 100. So that will be £2.50. All right. And then the next thing we do is to take 1% from this amount, which is 100%. So we can just do 250 minus £2.50. Okay. All right. So a quick way to do it, you can say, okay, 250 minus 2 is 248. 248 minus 50 pence will be 247 pounds 50 pence. Okay. So you don't really need a calculator for that. All right. Question 8 and 9. Pause the video and answer questions 8 and 9 in 3 minutes. Okay. Assuming you've paused the video and you've answered questions 8 and 9, here are the answers. So in 2007, the value of a house was £119,995. From 2007 to 2018, house prices decreased by 9.4%. How much has the value of the house decreased by? So for this one, you have to work out 9.4%. So you do 9.4% of 119,995. When you finish, you subtract whatever you get from this amount, and that will give you that. Okay. So, no, you don't really need to do that. They're not asking you what the new price is. They're just asking you how much has the value of the house decreased by. So you just do 9.4% of that amount. Okay, next. A car salesman earns commission for each car he sells. The commission is a percentage of his monthly salary based on the values of the cars he sells. So here is a table of his commissions, right? His monthly salary is so his monthly base salary is £1,208. Now, if he sells a car greater than or equal to £15,000, he's going to get 5.7% of his salary. Okay. Now, how much commission does he earn from selling one car for less than £15,000? Okay. So you just do 2.3% of £1,208, and that will give you that amount. And here are the others. Question B, how much commission does he earn for selling 6 cars each for less than £15,000? So again, 6 cars for less than that. So you're going to have to multiply this amount by 6. Okay. Next, how much commission does he earn for selling 7 cars each for more than this amount? So you have to, for this one, you have to go to your commission table. So you have to go to your commission table. The commission is 5.7% of 1208. So you do 5.7% of 1208 pounds. All right. And then you multiply whatever you get by 7. Next, in January, he sells 6 cars that cost less than £15,000 and 7 cars that cost more than £15,000. So again, you simply add this amount and that amount, and that gives you your answer. Okay. All right. Pause the video and answer question 10 in 2 minutes. All right. Assuming you've paused the video and you've answered the questions, here are the answers. Here, Mr. Jones wants to put £850 into a bank account. He looks at the interest rates from 2 different banks. Here are they. At the end of 2 years, he wants to have made as much money as possible. Which bank should Mr. Jones use? So it's about, this is similar to the example we did. So you work out 3% of the original amount deposited. Next, you work out 1.5% of the total amount at the end of year 1. So whatever you get here, you have to add £850 to it. And then you work out 1.5% of that amount. And then you do the same process here. When you finish, remember, we're asked that Mr. Jones wants to have as much money as possible. So his total amount has to be, he has to go with the bank where he has the most money. So Bank Central, when you do your calculation, you will get that amount. And then here, when you do your calculation, you get this amount. So you can see that this is much more. So the answer is Bank Central. And that brings us to the end of our lesson. So what we've learned so far is you have learned how to use your knowledge of finding percentage of amounts and using your calculator to work out percentage of different amounts, to compare them, and to solve real world problems involving bank accounts, involving sales, and even calculating VAT, which you see a lot of the time when we do shopping and when you look at your receipts. All right. Well done for sticking around and for learning. Until next time, take really good care of yourself, and bye-bye.